This is the one and only, the legend, the man that Mike Romine made famous. No, he was already famous. Bob Middleman. Look, it's been a long week, a lot of challenges along the way, but I'm so glad I'm here. Enelow shoes, where I bought my very first pair of Converse tennis shoes. And it's the reason why people say, all these videos from your home studio, why do you have a pair of high top Converse tennis shoes in those videos more times than not? It was a dream come true. My actual first pair, Bobby, was a hand-me-down from my neighbor. And I remember doing everything, even using some tape to bring them back to life. Before we talk about Enelow shoes, Beaver Falls, our love of the University of Pitt Panthers, we're going to talk about the shoe business. Talk to me about Enelows. This is the Mecca. For those of us who grew up here, the Granadis will tell you, Stevie Higgins will tell you, my brother-in-law John Manzetti will tell you, anybody who's anyone will tell you, this is the Mecca.
It used to be.
It still is. Tell me about it.
Well, let me tell you, my father got out of the service in 1953 from Korea. And my grandfather had a store up where the cinema theater was. It used to be the Regent. There were two little hole in the walls on both sides. My grandfather had a little ladies store. It was probably about 800 square feet. And after my dad got out of the service, there wasn't room for both of them. And the store here, National Shoes, was going out of business. So my grandfather just bought up the lease and handed my dad the keys one day and said, "Here, it's all yours."
Listen. You have had great days. You were here when this city was thriving. And this city, look, I love this city, and it's doing everything and making some incredible strides forward. And it's one of the reasons why I promote the Larry Bruno Foundation, why I come here, why I'm always talking Beaver Falls. My daughter works in this community. Mike Romine knows how much love I have for him. He has been such a good friend and has taught me so much about life, and I think of him often. But you think of Joe Namath, you think of the sports history, you think of the steel industry, you think of so much. My grandmother, who worked at an Isley's location, not too far from this location, how we would walk across the 10th Street Bridge at night. I want everyone to understand, if you need something in the way of apparel, you don't need to go anywhere, no big box store, no nothing. He has it. I do not want places like this to go away. They are so important. But what he has done to give back and to help this community and elsewhere, no one will ever outdo Bob Middleman. So this is truly a joy for me to be here. Now,
this size 7 and 7/8 is going to be about an 8 1/4 here pretty soon.
Listen, it's okay. I mean it from the heart. Pitt, Louisville tomorrow. These last 2 weeks, I'm wrung out to dry. I want this team to get it going.
Well, one thing you got to understand is, other than the quarterback getting hurt, you lost a good running back last week. The offensive line has been all beat up, and if tomorrow they may have the same continuity that they had last week. There's no continuity in the offensive line. They lost Branson Taylor about 4 weeks ago. They moved a right tackle to left tackle. They put somebody else at left tackle. They put somebody else at right tackle. There's no continuity there, and that's the most important thing.
Greg Diolis, Milk and Honey Management. You know him from the Coons Market Black and Gold Sunday Show, Pitt Law School. Look what I have found. I have made it to Pitt heaven. I was just talking to Walt Harris last week. You love Walt Harris.
Oh, I love Walt Harris.
Here's what else you said to me that's so true. I was talking to Chuck Winters earlier today. He's going to be joining us in the weeks to come. East Liverpool grad, played at the University of Pittsburgh. I love Pitt. And maybe now Mr. Green, who's going to be the new AD, will understand you are only as good as you are in the present and the future if you cherish the past. And Pitt, even though they didn't have great years, had a football team prior to Mr. Dorsett from Hopewell and Johnny Majors taking them to the national championship. We have to remember those players of the 60s and 50s, even though in the 60s, they weren't all that good, but they are still such an important part to that.
I've got to tell you about those 60 players. In 1968, I think it was the year the Panthers are going to roar. They were a bunch of sophomores that Dave Hart had recruited. It was one of the most fantastic recruiters you ever heard of. When 1970, they started out 5-1. They had 14 guys go to camp that year. That's phenomenal from a team that came in there. They were 2-18 out of the 3-27. Then Coach DePasquale came in. The first 2 games they got blown out, and then they ended up 4-6. And I mean, the last 2 games they lost were Penn State and Notre Dame. And we just didn't have enough players. You have to understand they were in something called the Big Four, 25 scholarships a year. Pitt, Penn State, Syracuse, and West Virginia were in that. But there were always ways around that. You could give guys track scholarships, tennis. We had a football player that was on a tennis scholarship, J.D. Lewis, if I recall, back in the late '60s. But Penn State and they were able to get more than we were, of course.
But I think it's such an important part of the history. So I talked to Dwight Collins earlier about this up at the Larry Bruno Foundation. Do you think one of the reasons why we don't get the blue chippers, and we've just lost 3, Tyke Hayes, Spell, Hayes from Aliquippa, Keemon Spell from McKeesport, and you got the quarterback out of Fort Cherry, who's now also going to be going to Pitt. Is it because we don't have a stadium? Does Pitt need a standalone stadium? I'm good with it either way, but a lot of people, the hardliners say, look, when you took away Pitt Stadium, you took away our chance to compete for a national championship. And look, Sig's a great quarterback, and I would love to have seen him stay here, but it's kind of hard to really outsell a 100,000 seat stadium that's all football fans.
My grandson has been poisoned to dislike Penn State since he was a little boy. I've been taking him to Pitt games since he was 4. And when they renewed the series, we got on the bus and we went up there. And the bus driver missed a turn, so he had to go all the way around again. And he just looked like, is this it? Wow.
Big, massive.
I mean, 108,000. They would have made it bigger, but Michigan balked because they didn't want anybody in the Big Ten to have a bigger stadium than them.
You know what? With all due respect, Franklin hasn't won some big games. I mean, he keeps getting beat by Ohio State. So I don't know, but I still think I've seen some major improvement. But here's the thing, and I love Coach Narduzzi. But with the way the game is now and how the coach matters, name, image, and likeness, look what Dion just did. He got that 5-star, that big-time quarterback that no one thought would ever end up anywhere, especially Colorado, right? And he's turning it around. They could actually be in the college football playoff. So what I'm trying to say is Narduzzi flashy enough? Does he appeal enough? And I think the reason Green came in from the SEC, they know they've got to get cash to get.
They need more money, definitely. Well, let me tell you something. Coach Narduzzi threw those kids under the bus last year, and I'm not saying that was wrong. You know, sometimes you gotta point fingers. And I mean, usually, I mean, when Coach Majors was there, you know, whatever was in the house stayed in the house. You know, any of this crap that went on, it didn't leave the locker room. And it was the same under Coach Sherrill, too.
Here's the thing about you. This guy has Coach Sherrill's number. He's like a vault. I mean, like Fort Knox of knowledge, information, connections when it comes to University of Pittsburgh. And I've known him forever. I never knew this, so that's why I'm here after a long day spending more time with Bob Middleman at Enelow Shoes. So you have a page out there.
I have a page, Real Pitt Football Talk, No Nonsense.
And
I started that because I used to read Scout and all this stuff, and everybody, as soon as we lose, everybody jumps off the bandwagon. This guy stinks, this guy stinks, this guy stinks, this guy, and I hate that.
You know who you remind me of?
Who?
I can't believe this. Thank you. Bino Cook.
Oh, I loved him. You know,
and I were really tight, drove him to Mountaineer to do my television show. Maybe one of the most recognizable sports figures other than Myron or Bob Prince out of Pittsburgh. I mean, massive. But he just let it fly. And sometimes you got to speak your mind. And I let loose on Greg last week. I'm like, we can't keep losing these players. And then I realized, and I was exchanging text messages with him too, the reason Penn State, they got Bob Palko up there. I think Pitt should have kept Kasparovich, or they need someone connected, because there's still enough players in Western Pennsylvania that will get people in the stands. The great thing about when we were growing up or older, when you had Dwight there playing, Marino, Covert, Dorsett, it made you want to be a Pitt fan. You know, I understand it's a global game, but sometimes you have to enjoy some home cooking once in a while.
Well, let me tell you something about that. First of all, there probably aren't more than 10 or 11 guys in the WPIL that can play at that level. And they've got a list a mile long, and maybe the WPIL guys right up there. But if he's going to play them, they're just going to go on to the next guy. You know, from Florida or Georgia, they recruit a lot in Georgia. And Georgia, as far as I'm concerned, is the best state in the country if you're looking for ball players. Football players, baseball players, I don't know, but they sure got a ton of them.
They do. Kirby Smart's got a bunch of them, too.
Oh, yeah.
He's a great coach. Listen, the thing that I think I want to talk about now that I never knew, because It blows my mind that I didn't know this. You were actually an equipment manager.
Yes, I was.
How did that happen?
They only had one. They only had one left. I went up in I got to Pitt in 71. I went up there in 72 because we used to have a few parties on our dorm floor, and I got to meet a lot of the other players other than the ones that hung around there that were in my class.
You ever make it to the towers?
Hmm?
You ever make it to the towers over there?
I never left the towers. I never left the towers. Yeah, I know. Actually, I was in Tower A for 2 years, and I had a single room in Tower C for 3 years.
How many hot dogs at the O?
Every night. Every night. We used to, my buddy and I, by 3:30 or 4 o'clock, we were pretty ginned up.
Oh.
And Bruce that owned the O at the time was
How
just a kid.
How does that go away? You know, it's as bad as the other thing that went away. And I love the family. How's the Brighton hot dog shop not in Beaver Falls anymore? Why is the Eaton Park? Where do you put
I think, Eaton Park moved to Chippewa.
I know.
Eaton Park was fine until they stayed open 24 hours. And then you got that group of guys that used to go into the other restaurants, and they couldn't handle it.
Kindred spirits, man. I'm a night owl. Look, not just from
not anymore. If I go home at 7 o'clock, I'll be asleep by 7:30.
Look, you got the Owls, you got the Turners, but man, the places that I remember, we were talking about this the other day. Remember the Rainbow Room?
Yes.
Right down over the hill.
Yes.
Oh my God! I always just wanted to go in there.
No, you didn't.
Really? Listen, Bobby McDaniel, love him. You got so many wonderful places in this community. I just want to talk about Beaver Falls for a minute. They are doing some great things, but do you think people watching this who kind of have a little bit of a memory of Beaver Falls or are living here now seeing Beaver Falls, do you think they have any idea what a juggernaut this place was?
Oh my God, we had everything here. None of the towns have any retail anymore. What you have here are going to be service places. And when I'm gone and when they're gone across the street, that's going to be the end of it. Nobody's going to come in here and open a shoe store or a clothing store.
Why are you still here? What? I know why I'm still working, but why are you still here? You got it just because you love it.
I do.
I know you do.
I do. I come in here every day and just twiddle my thumbs a lot. But now I'm substitute teaching at the middle school at Beaver Falls.
What's that like?
4 days a week, huh?
What's that?
Oh, it's
what? Come on. And that's got to be, I love teachers. And listen, I've told people this before and I'll say it again. I've spoken in front of thousands of people. But one time for my beautiful ex-wife, the mother of my 2 children, Robbie and Eva, her dad coached Beaver Falls, Larry Matrazo. She was teaching in Hopewell and asked me to do a career day for 3rd graders. I did 2 20 or 3 20-minute sessions. I have spoken in front of thousands. I was so tired after those 3. Teachers work hard and earn their money.
Yeah, they do. Well, with the subs now, they give you I've got a lesson plan there. That's what you're supposed to do.
And hopefully doing that. Huh? How did you end up doing that? That's pretty cool.
Well,
they just asked.
No, my wife's been on me for about 6-7 years to do that. And Tom House, the ex-Beaver Falls baseball coach, we've got these 6 or 7 guys that would hang around here every day. Half of them are gone now. And he kept saying, you ought to sub. He goes, you'd really enjoy that. And then my wife got on my case and said, you should do it. I said, well, she's retired. She worked at BCRC for 24 years over in New Brighton. And she said she'll come in a couple hours when I'm there and I have somebody to open up in the morning.
I'm not shooting smoke. This is a fact. I have interviewed presidents of the United States, future, whatever, you name it, great athletes. This is such a joy being here with you. The little shtick that you and Mike Romine did on KDK radio, I used to rush to my car to listen to that because it's real, it's raw. What you have here, you realize when you're gone, hopefully not for a while, these things are disappearing, if not pretty much all gone. That locally owned, independently operated little neighborhood, small business store. But you sold every size, shape, make, model. People came here. The Converse phenomenon.
And I was the first Nike account down here. And I can tell you a story about Nike. I don't know if you ever heard of Mike Gallagher. He used to do, he was a little fellow that worked in our equipment room. He lived up on the hill there, and he ended up going to Edinburgh, and he worked in TV up in Erie. He was in the equipment room one day. He's got his legs crossed, and he's got a pair of blue suede tennis shoes with a white swoosh. And I said, these are really cool. And I came and told my dad, I said, we got to get these. I said, they are really cool. So I called my friend in Katanning that had a Army Navy store, and here he was already a Nike account, and he probably had 20,000 pair of shoes there because Nike wasn't opening any accounts, and the salesman said, "Well, I can't open you up, and call this guy. He's and he was saying he was selling Nikes all over the place." When we were waiting to see the account, the Nike rep, and in the meantime, I went up there and bought 5 or 6 shoes. They only made about 4 or 5 shoes.
Steve Prefontaine, Phil Knight,
Yep.
Oregon, Sonny Vaccaro from Trafford, PA, Pat DeCesar English buddy, Youngstown State grad. It all evolved. And this is where it gets even better. So Sonny Vaccaro, who told us on the air when the movie Air came out, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, Netflix, I had him on, and he simply said, he goes, so I'm going to put this basketball thing together, and we're going to play it at McKeesport High School. And his dear friend Pat DeCesar said, look, we're going to do it at Civic Arena. And Sonny said, they're not going to. He goes, I just brought them the Beatles. They're going to listen. They did it, and they sold it out. But then you actually were invited to some of those games.
I did.
That's
cool.
And
it was pretty neat. They invited all the Nike dealers. Of course, me and my buddy got there first because we wanted to see all the eats, and the booze was free. And the one thing I used to be able to do was drink. So.
Can I tell you something?
Yes.
With all due respect, and you got to be an adult, and you got to be at moderation. But is there anything better than being in a neighborhood bar, enjoying a beer, watching a sporting event?
No. In fact, I went down to the Owls last night to watch a Steeler game. My grandson came back from work, sat there and watched the first half with me. I dozed off in the second half. I should have dozed off for the rest of the game.
Beaver Falls, it was our place. It was our Pittsburgh. It was everything. Come here at Christmas time and shop. And you've been such a part of this forever. And I've been coming to this community forever. D&G Pizza. I mean, I'm Geneva College, Gino DeMarco every week doing these videos because there's so many people who supported me over the last 10 plus years on my dime. Nobody's getting paid. Nobody's getting anything but just me showing and appreciating who all of these people are and what they meant to me. And every time I come into Beaver Falls, so help me. Pawn shop and you. And I'm like, he's still here. I guess I have a pulse. I'm alive. You mean so much to this community, and you've done so much for so many. And the cool thing is, you actually make a lot of this product, so people get pennies on the dollar when it comes to wanting to support your team. What was it like, though? I got to ask you, in the heyday when Converse was banging and Nike was banging, was it nonstop?
It was. I mean, Nike. I'm trying to think how many Nike dealers were down here. There was us. It was Barnett's over in Rochester. Yes, and that was pretty much it.
But did you love it? You had to love it. I loved the juice, man.
Well, it was. I mean, it was really exciting to go buy that stuff, and you didn't make any mistakes because they all sold. When we bought Nikes the first time, they made the Cortez. That's been a staple shoe of theirs forever. White with a red swoosh and a blue and white sole. But they also made nylon ones for Oregon, green and gold, Oregon State, black and orange, USC, maroon and gold. Well, what do we have here? We got Brighton, we got Beaver Falls.
It worked.
And Blackhawk.
Listen, I have to take care of family, and with all due respect, I love who you are. But things do evolve and change. Look, I loved working at the little local station, but I got sent up to the big leagues. KDKA, always be grateful. But Ed Stack and them are good friends at Dick's Sporting Goods, and I worked for them for years, and I would work for them for free. I would do anything for them. But just to give you an idea, I'm like shaking in here right now because I got this thing about this merch. You have no idea. So I would film my TV show, and I would pretty much spend my entire paycheck before I got out of the building. But I would just walk around and look. It's like being in a room of like Solly Motors back in the day or Morrow Motors in Beaver Falls, just looking at the new Lincolns and Fords. This stuff is still great to look at. And when you're a kid and Christmas is coming, Hanukkah's coming, when you get that first pair, like your hero wore, I'm talking Jerry West and Converse tennis shoes and Chamberlain and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Pro-Keds.
Yeah.
I still have a display thing with Kareem and Pro-Keds somewhere in here.
I'm not your role model. Nike and Charles Barkley.
Well, I never heard of Michael Jordan. I didn't follow basketball.
Oh, I know.
And this is 1984. My sales rep calls. He goes, "We got a new shoe called the Air Jordan." He goes, "I got you 72 pair here." They were in the up in Monroeville. The
warehouse.
No, there's
Mall?
no the Nike's showroom.
Oh, okay.
Was up there in where they used to have Pirate Fest. What is that?
Well, they had it.
Monroeville.
Convention Center.
Yeah. So he says, "I got you 72 pair." So I get my dad's station wagon to go up there. I said, "These are never going to sell. They're $65. What am I doing to myself? 60. I'll never sell these." And there were 4 colors. I brought them in Friday afternoon. By Saturday at 2:00, they were all gone. They were gone. Can I get any more? I told you to take some more. We had them.
You realize,
it was unbelievable.
Sonny Vaccaro, how they convinced Michael to do that. That's the reason why that swoosh. I mean, no offense. I knew who Steve Prefontaine was. Loved him. God rest his soul. Loved track and field. Loved all sports. But it was Air Jordan and getting that deal done. Because most of those guys back in the day were signing with Converse.
Mm-hmm. And Pony. You don't know how big Pony was.
Larry Holmes, man, on his trunks. I remember.
They were so close to overtaking Nike back then. No, they were right there. If you looked at all the football shoes, Nike wasn't into that. They were all wearing Pony, all those colleges, and they came out with 4 different colored basketball shoes, maroon and blue, and all these goofy colors, and it almost broke them.
Listen,
and they never recovered from that.
I would love to shake Phil Knight's hand just because I love business, but I like small business because this is more in my wheelhouse. I leave the big numbers up to people smarter than me. But you think about what they were able to do, and I found out, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think Converse is owned by Nike now.
They have been for about 10 years.
Why do you think I still love Converse not that ship has sailed? And if you know the Granati family.
Oh, yeah, Ricky just picked up 2 pair of size 7 blacks yesterday.
The reason that I do everything that man asked me to do is because he wears Converse tennis shoes. The Granati brothers really made Converse famous in Beaver County, but why do I still love that brand? And I remember $13.99.
That was high. You don't remember when they were $8.99?
Oh my goodness!
Oh, we made a ton of money on them. We paid $7.10 and sold them for $8.99.
That was a big ticket item. What was this place like at Christmas time, Beaver Falls?
No, they used to have a cop on every block back in the 60s and 70s.
Big Frank Policaro.
He was probably there till about 75 or 76. Big John Jackson.
Oh, yeah. Good. You know what I remember about Beaver Falls? Date night. Go to the movies and go to the Red Bull Inn.
Oh my God, I probably spent enough money into owning it. That's where I met my wife.
Now, what's your maiden name?
Peters.
Where's she from originally?
West Mayfield.
Come on.
Graduated in 1974 from Blackhawk. I used to tease her all the time. I said, they didn't want you guys, and Beaver Falls didn't want you. Blackhawk didn't want you guys either.
I was thinking of a couple of places where I want them to hold my weight because when I'm at that age, I'm getting everything in place, and my beautiful ex-wife is going to be kind of making the decisions at least at this point. And I was telling her the other day, and I started thinking, maybe the Corner Tavern might be a nice place. What is it about that place? And Tony, God rest his soul, is long gone. Why do I love the Corner Tavern so much? And I remember what was so unique about it. You didn't sit at the bar. You stood at the bar.
No, you stood at the bar.
But little places like that, Little Joe's down the street, a lot of history there, man. What was the name of the spaghetti house that used to be down here?
Maria's?
Yes.
It was funny. They sold that. They moved to West Aliquippa where his father had a barber shop and opened up there, and then they retired. But George opened back up down here because all him and his wife did was go down to Mountaineer. So they decided to go back into business so they wouldn't spend so much money down there.
Your folklore. I mean, you have so many stories, and I'm going to try. Now that he's opened the door, I'm going to be coming back because I've been trying to get in this door for a long time, and I just happened to meet him on the street today, and it's just so nice to be with Bob Middleman. And honestly, I know how much Mike Roma respects, loves you. You're the quintessential small business entrepreneurial spirit at its best. Now, you have any kids?
Yes. I have a son, 46, down in Georgia. My daughter's 40. She lives in New Brighton on Penn Avenue, where Cardosi's used to live.
Yeah.
I know you know where the house is. Yep.
I know where it's at exactly. On the other side of the little road there. I know exactly where it is.
Yeah, that's a bad place to park. Cars get hit there all the time.
All the time.
Yep.
Listen, still going through that intersection. I still cross my fingers. Before I let you go, let's get back to the reason that we struck up a conversation. I love my Pitt Panthers. I bleed.
So do I.
Gold. I know. Well, you went there. You're the real deal. I'm just a wannabe. But I'm tired. I mean, I see what Deion did at Colorado. Now, I know he's Deion Sanders, and I still think what's going to happen, he gets this recruit or not, he's ended up with Dallas, and his son's going with
I
him.
think so.
And Travis Hunter will be there, too, playing both sides of the ball. Believe me.
I agree. I agree with you 100%.
I'm
I think it's going to happen.
But
I'll tell you, they make a big deal about that and all the guys he turned over. When Coach Majors came in, 45 guys that came to spring ball weren't there in the fall. And he brought in 75 freshmen and 11 junior college guys. We had about 120 ball players there.
You know, Doc Gradizak was there, too, for a while.
Yeah, that was his freshman year.
Great dentist, good friend.
That's
Love
my
talking
dentist.
about Pitt. But what was, by the way, the runner-up in the Heisman Trophy, Johnny Majors, Tommy McDonald. Talk to me about what was he like? Personality.
The word no did not exist. This is what you're doing. You're going to do it. They were scared to make mistakes. I mean, and Coach Sherrill, I mean, they were petrified.
I heard that his only job, Johnny Majors told him, as he was an assistant, make sure Dorsett gets on the bus every day. I mean, what kind of player was Tony Dorsett?
What a great, phenomenal player.
I never saw him play live.
At camp, the first week they scrimmaged, and he broke free and ran 75 yards. And Coach Majors ran down, and we found ourselves a tailback. We found ourselves a tailback. We found ourselves a tailback. But my senior year, I lived over in Tower C. In the second term, he lived next door to me. And our phone numbers were in sequence. So all night, my phone would ring because he'd take his off the hook. And it took me about 6 weeks to finally figure out, dum-dum, take your phone off the hook. Because he'd hide in my room because people would bother him all the time.
You know, when I think of Tony, you know what I think about? 303 yards or whatever against Notre Dame, the tearaway jersey. And I've talked to Tony.
I have one
before.
of them hanging in my office back here, one of his tearaways.
Do you mind if I see it before I leave?
No, sure. And I also have a number 34 jersey that belonged to Elliott Walker, because when we played Penn State in '77, he wasn't getting the ball, and he came in the locker room and just tore it off and threw it down and said he quit. And Coach Moore came in and had to appease him.
You know, I just interviewed Joe Moore. He has a book out.
The boy?
Listen, listen to me. Yeah, the coach.
Yeah.
Dude, how old is he now? Like 80?
No, he's gone.
No, not the dad.
No, the son.
Yeah.
James or Joe?
Joe.
Okay.
But now listen.
Him I don't know. James I just met here about a month ago up at the West Mayfield Vets.
You met, they got a Vets in the West Mayfield.
They do. I was never in it before.
Well, I need to become a member. Listen, so anyway, I'm talking about Joe Moore, a couple people, and he's got this camp they do every year.
Yes.
You wouldn't believe this guy is revered.
He's the greatest offensive line coach in history. There's nobody better. And Bob Davie fired him.
Why?
Said he was too old. That's why he sued, and he won. Joe is quite a character. They could have written a book about him just in.
You know, another guy who's no longer with us that I loved, and he was always good to me. Speaking of Pitt, Paul Martin.
See, I never met Paul Martin.
Oh, the guy dressed impeccable. But you know who's a good friend of mine too? Is Ralph Sindrick.
Is he living in California now?
Yes, super agent. They broke the mold. All these guys you see doing it today, they learned from Ralph Sindrick. But when I would make him tell me these stories about the University of Pittsburgh, not just football, but wrestling, the Fitzgerald Fieldhouse, what was it like going to, listen, I get coffee from Sheets and drive around Oakland. They probably think, here comes that guy again. What was it like going to school there?
You know what? You didn't leave. These guys go to the South Side and all over the place. You didn't leave Oakland. You didn't need a car. Everything was right there. All the bars, the Wooden Keg, C.J. Barney's, and Cozy's, and Wolfhorse, and I could tell you stories there.
Yeah. My man Bill Chirpek, I've heard some stories about Billy Fralick and those guys, and God rest Billy Fralick's soul. The best line Billy Fralick, he's playing somebody. I think Central Catholic when he's at Penn Hills, and he's just pancaking the phrase after him. Everyone. He goes over to the coach of the opposing team and says, "Look, don't you have anybody any better?" I mean, this guy was in 8th grade starting varsity football.
Right.
I'm over at Freedom High School here not too long because I did play-by-play in high school. We all know, he knows, forever. I'm over at Freedom High School a couple of years ago. I look up and, Jimbo Cover. I don't think, and then, I realized like J.D. Haglin, he goes on to become a coach. Coach Mike Warfield from Aliquippa in college.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it a small world?
Jimbo Covert's dad used to bring him in here for shoes because he wore a 13. And, we had every size in the world. He was probably 12, 14, 15 years old.
Bobby, you don't realize what you've been a part of. I mean, you need to do a book. I mean, I know you like this Pitt stuff, but this is a movie here. I mean, with this window that shows your product is really just a window to your world. I mean, how many years have you been getting up coming in here?
Since I was 13, when I was in 7th grade, I started walking down here after school, washed the windows, pulled the weeds in the back, swept the sidewalks.
You think your dad or anybody expected this business, this shoe business? I mean, let's face it. Even though it may have slowed a little bit here, not much, because you can still get it all online, everything you need right here, Enelow Shoes, and maybe something you can't find somewhere else. He'll find it. But do you think anybody foresaw what was going to happen with the shoe industry? I mean, think about it. It's still
Nike revolutionized everything. I mean, that killed the women's business. Well, it killed it in here anyway, because I got all this athletic stuff in there, and this used to be all women's here. That whole wall, there was nothing but women's dress shoes. There were chairs all the way back there. This was kids here, and the men's were over there.
But in a way, though, it really ignited a whole nother industry that has made a whole lot of people be able to get a paycheck. And I got to tell you, I'm looking around at just some of these names here. You still have a great, I still like K-Swiss. There's something about K-Swiss. Fila. Some of these names are still so prominent. And I think people need to know you don't need to drive to the other side of the state. Just come here to Beaver Falls. You're still having
I'll find something
inventory
for you. Oh, yeah, I got a lot of inventory. Tell me.
Oh, man.
I remember when we switched that, my buddy was a carpenter, and we were up the Red Bull getting all ginned up. And I said, we got to get the ladies out of here. We came here about midnight. Both of us are all ginned up. I'm just his helper. We're knocking out all the shelves that were over there. And he put the slat wall up there and slat wall back here. I said, I'll do the rest. and we moved all the clothing I had over here, because that was when I got into licensed products when it was brand new. I mean, my starter account was probably 13, 12. And nobody knew what starter was. And that back in the main hats were those AJD hats. They had the two stripes there.
Listen, I may even let Gay Buyer battle for my remains if you do one thing for me.
What's that?
You know what I've always wanted?
What?
And this is a fact. I want a Beaver Falls varsity jacket. Listen to me.
Just hold on a second. Cut that.
No,
minute.
I'm not cutting it.
Well, I'm gonna.
I'll talk. You go.
You talk. After you're good at it.
Bring that torch.
I got to take that off the wall to do that. I'm not doing that.
Absolutely.
All right, you're done talking now, Mr. Pratt. May I present to you a Beaver Falls High School football jacket, Tigers on the back.
My goodness.
There you go.
My goodness.
It's been sitting back here hung up. I don't even know where I got it.
Listen to me.
I don't even know where I got it.
Listen to me.
I'm listening.
I have no idea. Keep the Academy Award. Keep everything else. I have finally arrived. Joe Namath, eat your heart out. Stevie Higgins, eat your heart out.
He's got one.
The rest of the interview will be done in this jacket. Listen, I will be wearing this weekend, maybe even on my video blogs at KDKA. Beaver Falls is an incredible community. But guess what? They're not done yet. They're still doing some good things here. You can't leave. You leave, the day you leave, you know, that's the apocalypse. It's over. That's the day that God takes me home. You don't understand. This is the greatest city in the world. And now I thought it was some money. Anyway.
We didn't even talk about my sponsorship of baseball teams since 1961. Enelow Shoes has been in Little League, and we're still there.
You just celebrated your 70th anniversary.
Yes.
Is it going on right now?
This is 70 years.
Listen, if this would have been 2 Novembers ago, this would have probably listen, look at that. 70 years. You think about your dad a lot?
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
All the time.
Where'd you grow up in Beaver Falls?
College Hill.
You know what I also,
34th Street and 5th Avenue.
You know what else crushed me? Dick DeAngelis died.
He was on my Little League team. Dickie. Billy Joe was on my Pony League team. Whenever we'd win, which the first year wasn't too often, we'd go up to DeAngelis' house up in College Hill, and we'd get all the leftover donuts, the 12 of us that were on that team.
You know, if I go out of here tonight and it's lights out, first thing I say, thank you for letting me come spend time with Bob Middleman. You really made my day. You know, the Granati's, I love them. They're like my brothers from another mother. And when I first kind of went my separate ways with my beautiful, wonderful Ms. Matrazo, I went to their house for Christmas Eve after my Seven Fishes broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
And it really gave me the...
I used to love when you did that, because we came on after that and we ate all the leftover fish you had there on Friday nights.
And I have the utmost respect for Mike Romine. Mike Romine is the quintessential professional, and he's retired now. All the great work of the Humane Society, his wife, his family. The reason I love Beaver Falls, and Mike, whether you believe it or not, the reason I'm doing all this stuff for the Bruno Foundation, a lot of it has to do with you. But I just want to close on a couple of things. You know, I think of the Isley stores that my grandmother worked at, but you were talking about the Granati's with me and Waite's Ice Cream up on the hill. And I know you can't bring any of this stuff back, but I still see a lot of good. I see the people running Beaver Falls, trying to make it a little better. My daughter works here, Dirk Goodwall, the magistrate. She loves it here. I see that fire department of those professional firefighters doing what they do. You got a Wendy's, you got a McDonald's, you got that D&G pizza name. You got a really good educational system in Beaver Falls. But one of the best things that you have, and you know, this Beaver County Historical Society, because I love the present and I'm all in on the future. I'm still watching MTV. I'm still hip. I'm still cool. But I love to kind of revisit things. And when I'm at home at night, I saw a picture of the old Keystone Bread sign.
Mm-hmm.
And now
time to buy Keystone Bread. You saw it.
And now Geneva's up there. But one of the things that we have in this community that people need to come and visit, especially if you have children who are getting ready to matriculate to college. We love Pitt, but Geneva College is a special place. And we're so lucky to have them.
I can remember when I was a little boy, we'd go down there and watch the games and stand there and ask the guys for their chin straps when they were going into the locker room.
So to finish on Pitt, and I want Coach Narduzzi to thrive. And he's got a contract that's going to be...
at least through 2030.
It is 2030. You're okay with that?
I don't care. You know what? Everyone wants to get rid of him, but you know what? He wants to be here.
He does.
All these other guys were here. They couldn't wait to get out of here.
It was a stepping stone. You know who the guy I would like to see get back into coach? He was some of the assistants that were here, like Jimmy Johnson,
mm-hmm.
John Gruden.
He started here.
I know. I'm just saying he's out there now. So I don't want nothing to happen to Narduzzi because I do want him to win. But you need somebody with a little fire. And from what I hear, and I don't remember, but they said Johnny Majors, Jackie Sherrill Foge, they all had a little bit of a gas pipe in them. They were going, man, full throttle. Johnny Majors, when I met him, he had the charm of a Rhett Butler from Gone with the Wind, but he also had that football pedigree that I remember watching these players like Frank Gifford and others growing up, Y.A. Tittle, the Golden Era, Tiger Joe Walton. Johnny Majors was a special human being, wasn't he?
He was something, I'll tell you. I mean, I did. You know what? I worked inside. I didn't work outside. But I was around. Yeah, I worked with Coach Madden, Coach Roper. He had a phenomenal staff. Those guys, they were great coaches, and some of the grad assistants that were there with Jackie were phenomenal. Mike Sherman, he used to coach. Did he coach Green Bay?
Mm-hmm.
The guy at Iowa that's been there forever, he started here. He's from Ference.
How about Signetti at Indiana? Everybody's picking Ohio State.
He was our recruiting coordinator here.
At Pitt.
Yeah, when Johnny came back the second time, Kurt Signetti. In fact, you had the kid from New Brighton that played for Pitt, Pfaff.
Yeah, Paul Pfaff.
And I remember he started against BC, and then he went home, and Kurt was right there to get him to come back.
How about Dwight Collins?
What a phenomenal ball player!
And he's such a sweet, decent human being, very modest. Stevie Higgins is another. I'm throwing his name out because I just don't want to stop talking to you. Stevie was a great player.
Well, Stevie transferred to Pitt.
I know the year.
And I was up there. I was up there. I used to still hang around up there. He was and he was running second team in the spring. He was going to play. He would have played up there. And that day I had Coach Sherrill on the show. Stevie talked to him, and he said, Coach Bryant told you to look out for me. He goes, whatever Coach Bryant said, I did.
Well, listen, I'm not going to say every week because of my schedule, but I'm going to try at least maybe next Friday, one more, just to come and see Bob. And I hope you'll come and visit him at Christmas and do the online thing or whatever. And if you're watching this on this great social media tool that reaches all the way around the world, and you've got any love for Beaver Falls, I'm doing this because I want to do it. Support a business like this because it still matters and it keeps it relevant, this community, this city. And I want the city and the school district and everybody to know how much love and respect I have for all of you. And a big part of my career started here. And I have so many members like
Rhino.
I do.
Rhino, remember doing the commercial here with all the high school kids?
Listen, man.
Rhino. I think you narrated that commercial.
Yeah, they still owe me for that, I think. No, I'm kidding. But,
no, you're not.
Listen, here's what we want to do. This foundation, we want to find a way to get a building in New Brighton, do the same thing. I'm trying to get Jim Render of Upper St. Clair. You're so lucky to have this Larry Bruno Foundation.
Oh, you better believe it.
That building, if you've not been in there, it's like stepping into just history, the stories. And I can't tell you, if you're watching this and you have any connection to this community or this county that is Beaver County, you've got to come back. We just love high school football. Larry Bruno Foundation. And before you go there, stop by and pick up some gear here. So where do you think this is all going to go? What's the next big thing, do you think, in this industry? This shoe biz. What do you think?
It's all, I don't know. It's all, I don't want to say it's passed me by, but I don't have Nike anymore. And that's where it went.
Sunny.
Nah, it won't do any good now.
You'd be shocked.
Nah, it won't.
You'd be
won't
shocked.
work.
But let me tell you something. You may not have them, but you got about everyone else. And I must tell you, Rafael Nadal just retired from tennis.
Mm-hmm.
When I think of tennis, the number one shoe I think of, Adidas is right there too.
Right.
K-Swiss.
We got K-Swiss because my dad was a tennis player and he wore those shoes. So he went, this is back in the late 60s. K-Swiss started in 1966. And he went to a show just to buy those. So him and his buddies that have tennis shoes.
But do you realize the thing, and you watch any of the major sports brands, 24-hour cable news, like sports channels like ESPN, NFL Network, all of them. Every single one of those who are dressed, men and women, more times than not, they got some good kicks on.
Definitely.
Look, there's nothing like a clean pair of kicks, as I used to say. And I can remember at night, a Converse, man, just.
Did you have your toothbrush and you were scrubbing
listen, the shoestrings over the stationary tub. Don't touch anything, don't splash. And you had the kicking around shoes. Look, when I was a kid, even getting a pair of Keds was massive.
Well, see, Converse wouldn't sell to shoe stores. They would just sell sporting goods stores back then. And we used to bootleg them from Saul's and Ambridge.
Oh.
That's how we got Converses in here. But we had Pro Keds, and we sold so many Pro Keds, you wouldn't believe. I mean, some of those white high tops, we'd buy 72 pair of a size. But when you went back here, you saw one shoe in 5 colors, Converse, and they made blue. That was the third color. That was the biggest. You don't know what a big deal that was. They used to just make black and white. Then all of a sudden they had black, white, and blue.
All right.
I mean, how much this has expanded. It's crazy.
It is crazy, but you're still kicking it and you're still doing it. What do you think Pitt does need? I mean, what do they need to become more relevant and not? And look, Holstein. Everybody's talking about Holstein. I'm not so sure about. We'll see. But the quarterback, But what do they need to do to not just make it this year?
Well, what you
but
have
make
to
it year
remember,
after
well, what
year?
you have to remember, number one, is they changed their offense completely, but they didn't bring in the same. First of all, I've always thought anytime you change coordinators, whatever, it takes a year till they get everything down.
Right.
Number one. Number two, they're big and they're strong. They have 300-some-pound linemen. Well, you got this little quick guy. You need small, quick linemen. When Coach Majors came in, Pitt wasn't very good, but when they got done playing Notre Dame and Penn State, they beat those guys up. They were big and strong. We just didn't have enough of them. And you have to realize, I mean, we had a language requirement. You had to take 2 years of foreign language there. There were so many. There was a reason why we didn't have the top guys, because they couldn't make it through there.
Big story, though. I also heard.
But anyway, I didn't finish. But anyway, they'll bring in. I'll bet you they go through the portal, and Narduzzi's done that very well. I'll bet you they bring in 8 or 9 new offensive linemen. They're going to be smaller, they're going to be quicker, and you're going to see a big difference next year.
Well, listen, I'm all in on Narduzzi. I'm all in on Pitt. Basketball season looking good. The women's volleyball team, men's soccer, university, the great degrees that can make you an entrepreneur like him, and dentists and doctors and lawyers and just about anybody. And my one niece graduated from Pitt, and I tell her all the time, do you realize how lucky you are? You got to go to the Cathedral of Learning, and you got out of there with a degree from the university. All the amazing things that they're doing in the world of medicine. We are so fortunate. And what people don't realize, and I'll finish on this, all of the jobs because of that university and UPMC that are created in this region that keep small businesses like this alive. He's such an incredible wealth of information, best storyteller ever. I loved him on the radio for years. I've loved him from afar. I'm so blessed and happy that I got a chance to sit with Bob Middleman tonight. But again, because we go, tell him about your business, where you are and how long you've been doing this, and your hours, and maybe some online stuff too. Go ahead.
10 to 5 daily, 10 to 6 on Friday, 10 to 4 on Saturday. And I'm usually here after 2 every day. And Tuesday, I'm here all day. Saturday, probably going to close a little bit early tomorrow because the Pitt game starts at 4. I usually have a party here, but I don't want to sit. I don't want to sit around here till 8 o'clock.
You know, my new phrase is going to get all ginned up.
That was my old phrase. You like that?
I do like that. And we were always in moderation.
And we were all ginned up. And we go into Dirty O about 2:30 in the morning, and Bruce would be there and say, "Come on, Bruce, give us those scraps. Come on, man. Come on, man, give me those scraps." And then he'd want to throw us out of there, and then he'd finally give in and give us those burnt hot dogs over there, and then we say, "How about a bun?"
Oh, listen. The other thing about food, because I was a little bigger a few years ago, the pandemic, I got a little carried away. Now I'm back in shape, but I got to tell you, there is not a better pizza than D&G Pizza.
Delicious.
Listen, we used to go in there when we were kids with my mom, and times were tough, and there were 6 of us. My mother would get like 6 slices and cut them in sections. And it was like a bird in a nest. She'd reach down and give you that little... and she could recreate anything. My mom was really good at it, making pizza, but D&G's, man.
Well, we didn't have a pizza shop here when they opened. When I was a little kid, we had a pizza shop up on College Hill next to where Sheets is. And they must have closed around 1960. And I don't recall another pizza shop till D&G opened in 64. B&B sold pizza in the bar there. Then eventually we had an Arts Pizza down here on 10th Street.
Oh, in Beaver Falls?
Yeah, they were here for a while in the late 60s.
They're all disciples of Dave and Gene.
I don't know the history of that.
They are.
But we had one there, and then they opened up briefly on College Hill on the corner where Pizza Joe's is. Because they ended up tearing that building down, and there was an open pantry there for a little bit, and then it turned into...
Do you realize what DeAngelo's Donuts on College Hill? My grandfather, who used to come and visit us on Sundays, would always bring a dozen donuts from DeAngelo's. And I've been in kind of contact with his daughter, Stephanie Dix, recently because of his passing and them selling the business. And I got to tell you, I understand it happens, but it's just so sad to see DeAngelo's Donuts closed. And I just wish somehow, some way it could get recreated. But that dozen of donuts from DeAngelo's was like 24 karat gold.
They were so light. You know what? Since
light,
we were McDonald's South when the pandemic hit. I didn't participate in the pandemic, so the guys that used to come up to McDonald's came here. That's where all the chairs are. There's a coffee, and once a week I'd go to DeAngelo's and buy a dozen French crullers. I love those. That and then there's Hogan's Bakery in Columbiana. I'd go to whenever I'd go there and I'd bring them here. Yes, I'd bring those down here for my pit parties.
All I'm saying is, God, I thank you for today.
Well, I thank you.
Listen, I'm here for you. Whatever you need. I don't want anything. You understand?
How's it fit? How's it fit? It's warm. I know that.
Listen, you realize the people that have wore jackets like this? Butch Ryan, Joe
Namath,
Steve Higgins, Dwight
Tommy
Collins.
Krasinski.
You can never forget Al McLean, Ronnie Shiro.
Yeah, I batted against both of them.
Did you?
And Pony League, they're a year older than me.
You know, my brother-in-law, John Manzetti, baseball was huge in this town.
Oh, yeah.
You know what's
I don't know him. Which?
That's Rich's cousin.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Everybody
but I mean, there were, yeah, oh, yeah.
And Daryl was his brother. They made the candy up in college.
They lived up by St. Phil's?
Yeah, Rocky
Is that the
Washington.
one? Yeah,
yeah.
Okay.
He was another great player.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, my uncle grew up here, Dick Cairns, Tiger Joe Walton, Joe Namath.
Joe Walton lived next door to my dad.
Ron Schufo. What's that?
Joe Walton lived up in Patterson next to my dad.
Did he?
Yes, when he came to coach the Steelers, he bought the house next door to him.
I did the Joe Walton show on TV for years.
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
And Robert Morris?
Yeah, I did know it. Robert Morris, and then in between when he left the Steelers after the Bubby thing kind of, went south.
Boy, did he get a rod deal there.
He did. Joe Walton was a great football coach.
It was amazing. He took a brand new team and went 7-3 with an 18-year-old quarterback that understood his offense, but number 6 for the Steelers couldn't figure it out because he's dumber than a box of rocks.
Why do you think Joe stayed at Robert Morris? And I'm glad he did, but he could have went anywhere.
He probably could have.
He just was happy.
Well, you know what? He was home. He came back to Beaver Falls, and he was home. Probably didn't want to go anywhere at that stage of the game.
I can still remember my mother and my sisters and I coming to Isley's. It put us up on the stool, and we get them skyscraper cones. It was like...
Which Isley's in New Brighton?
No, here.
Or here. We had 2 of them here. We also had one on College Hill.
I know, but it was the one...
The one up here on 13th Street?
Whatever was the closest one to your store.
Right. It's about 3 blocks up there. The building's still there.
We had a pretty good life, didn't we?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not ready to go yet, though.
I'm not either. I'm going to screw a whole bunch of people up if I croak. No, let me tell you.
Listen, including me. Now that I found out, tell them about this again. Go.
Real Pitt Football Talk, no nonsense. It's a Facebook group. We have about 3,000 people. There's a bunch more that have more, but that's my group.
Yeah, I want you to hold this up. I'm going to go around and hit the button. Remember, 70th anniversary, 70 more to go. It is all about Enelow. And remember, they're here ready to serve you. Thank you, Bob Middleman.